We only bought 3 tickets, honey. You understand, right? My mother said this while checking her makeup in the reflection of the kiosk screen. She didn't even look at me. She just kept tapping her boarding pass information, her fingernails clicking rhythmically against the glass. Behind her, my dad, Bob, was busy rearranging the weight in his suitcase to avoid an overage fee, sweating slightly in the air-conditioned terminal. My brother, Tyler, was already wearing his Mickey Mouse ears, scrolling on his phone, completely unbothered by the fact that I was standing there with a suitcase I wouldn't be using. I stood frozen. The noise of the terminal, the announcements, the crying babies, the rush of travelers seemed to fade into a dull underwater hum. I looked at my own suitcase, the one I had packed with such care the night before. I looked at the Family Vacation 2024 t-shirt I was wearing, identical to theirs. It felt like a costume for a play I had been fired from. "What?" I whispered. My voice sounded small, pathetic even to my own ears. "The budget," my dad grunted, finally looking up but staring past my shoulder at the security line. "We looked at the numbers last night. Flights are crazy right now, Chloe. Tyler has never been. We had to prioritize. You've been to Florida before, remember? When you were 6. But I paid for the shuttle," I stammered, my mind trying to catch up with reality. "I took the week off work. You told me we were all going. I bought the luggage." "Don't be dramatic," my mother snapped, finally turning to me with that familiar look of irritation mixed with pity. The look she reserved for whenever I had needs. "We need someone to watch the house anyway. The plants need watering. The mail piles up. It's better this way. Here." My dad dug into his pocket and pulled out a crumpled $20 bill. He shoved it into my hand. "Take an Uber home. We'll bring you a keychain." They turned their backs. Just like that. They walked toward the TSA checkpoint, laughing about which ride they would hit first. My mother adjusting her carry-on bag, the one I had bought her for her birthday. They didn't look back once. Not a wave. Not a hesitation. They left me standing on the curb of Terminal 4 like a piece of luggage they had decided was too heavy to carry. They thought I would just go home, water the plants, and wait for them to return so I could hear their stories about the magical week I paid for, but didn't get to enjoy. They thought I was the same Chloe who had spent 26 years apologizing for existing. The girl who would swallow the lump in her throat and convince herself that this was normal family behavior. But as I watched them disappear into the security line, my brother high-fiving my dad, something inside me didn't just break, it solidified. It was a cold, hard click in the center of my chest. I looked at the $20 in my hand. Then I remembered something. I remembered. Whose name was on the deed to the house they were so worried about leaving unattended. It wasn't theirs. It was mine. By the time their plane touched down in Orlando, I wouldn't just be watering the plants. I would be erasing their entire existence from my life. To understand why I did what I did next, you have to understand the architecture of the guilt that built that house. It wasn't just a building. It was the leverage they used to control me, even though I was the one who owned it. My grandmother, Rose, my mother's mom, was the only person who really saw me. She saw how my parents operated. She saw how my mom, Diane, needed everything to look perfect on Facebook while our electricity was getting shut off. She saw how my dad, Bob, enabled her spending while refusing to work overtime because he felt it was beneath him. And she saw how Tyler, my younger brother, was treated like a prince while I was treated like the hired help. When Grandma Rose passed away 5 years ago, she did something that shocked the whole family. She bypassed my mother entirely. She left her 3-bedroom suburban home, fully paid off, to me. I was 21. The will was explicit. To my granddaughter Chloe, who knows the value of $1 and the value of a home. It caused a war. My mother screamed, cried, and threatened to sue the estate. She accused me of manipulating a dying woman, but the lawyer was firm. The deed was in my name. It was my house. But I was young. I was grieving, and I was conditioned to seek their approval. About 6 months after I moved in, my parents came to me with a sob story. Their lease was up. Dad's hours were supposedly cut. They were drowning in credit card debt. Tyler needed stability to focus on his studies, which really meant streaming video games until 4 a.m. Just for a few months, my mom had pleaded, tears streaming down her face. Just until we get back on our feet. How can you live in this big house alone while your family struggles? Grandma would have wanted us to be together. That was the lie that hooked me. Grandma would have wanted it, so I let them move in. A few months turned into 5 years. Slowly, methodically, they pushed me out of my own space. My dad took the master bedroom because your mother has back problems and needs the ensuite bath. My mom took the second largest room for her crafts. A room filled with expensive fabrics and Cricut machines she rarely used. Tyler took the third bedroom because he needed space for his gaming setup. And I ended up in the small den off the kitchen. The room that didn't even have a closet. But the insult wasn't just spatial, it was financial. They stopped acting like guests saving money and started acting like landlords who didn't pay bills. I paid the property taxes. I paid the home insurance. When the water heater blew last winter, I paid the $1 in $200 to replace it. Meanwhile, they lived a life I couldn't afford. I would come home from my 9-to-5 job as a paralegal, exhausted, to find them eating takeout sushi. "Oh, we didn't order any for you," Tyler would say, mouthful. "We didn't know when you'd be home." I'd check the mail and find packages for my mom, new clothes and skincare, decor items. Then I'd open the utility bill and see it was overdue. "Mom, the electric bill is $300 this month," I'd say. "I need help with it." "Chloe, stop being so transactional," she'd sigh, rolling her eyes. "We're family. You know things are tight right now. Your father is stressed. Don't add to it." I learned to be silent. I learned to eat ramen in my room while they ate steak. I learned to drive my 10-year-old Honda while Tyler drove a new lease that my dad co-signed for. I became a ghost in my own house, a wallet they opened whenever they needed something, and a nuisance whenever I asked for respect. Then came the Disney trip. For months, it was all they talked about. A family healing trip, my mom called it. "We need this," my dad said. I was skeptical, but they included me in the planning. We looked at hotels. We discussed restaurants. I requested the time off work. I bought a new suitcase. I even paid $150 for the private van to the airport because my dad said his card was maxed out from the booking. I thought things were changing. I thought maybe, finally, I was part of the family they were always talking about. I didn't know I was just the chauffeur. The Uber ride back from the airport was a blur of humiliation. The driver, a nice older man, tried to make conversation. "Forgot your passport?" he asked sympathetically. "No," I said, staring out the window at the gray highway barriers. I just remembered something else. I checked my bank app on my phone. The charge for the airport shuttle was there. $150. Then I looked at the shared grocery expenses I tracked. $400 last week. My dad's loan for Tyler's car insurance. $200. I scrolled back months, years, thousands of dollars, money I saved from my paycheck while they lived rent-free. When I unlocked the front door of my house, the silence hit me. It wasn't peaceful. It was messy. They had left in a whirlwind. Breakfast dishes were crusted in the sink. Tyler's dirty laundry was piled on the living room sofa, the sofa I bought. My mom's craft supplies were exploded all over the dining table, covering a stack of mail. I walked over to the mail. It was a past due notice for the internet they used all day while I was at work. I picked up the notice. I looked at the dirty dishes. I looked at the family photo on the mantle, a picture of the 3 of them at a beach trip I wasn't invited to last year. Something cold and heavy settled in my chest. It wasn't rage. Rage burns hot and fast. This was resolve. It was the feeling of a judge delivering a verdict after a long trial. I wasn't their daughter anymore. I wasn't their sister. I was their landlord. And they were terrible tenants. I sat down at the kitchen table, pushed aside my mom's fabric scraps, and opened my laptop. I didn't cry. I opened a spreadsheet. I typed out a schedule. I had 7 days. Day 1, security. Day 2, the purge. Day 3, utilities. Day 4, deep clean. Day 5, legal. Day 6, the setup. Day 7, the return. I looked at the crumpled $20 bill my dad had given me. I smoothed it out and pinned it to the refrigerator with a magnet. Budget cuts. I whispered to the empty room. Understood. I started the next morning at 8 a.m. sharp. I called a locksmith I found online, one with high ratings for emergency services. His name was Mike. When he arrived in his van, he looked at my red eyes. I hadn't slept, and the suitcase still by the door. Lockout, he asked. No, I said, holding up the deed to the house and my driver's license. I wanted everything by the book. I need a rekey. All of them. Front, back, garage, side gate, even the mailbox. Mike looked at the paperwork. He checked the name on the deed against my ID. He looked at the family photos on the wall that didn't feature me. He didn't ask questions. He just nodded. You want standard keys or high security? High security, I said, and deadbolts on the bedroom doors. As the sound of the drill whined through the doorframe, I felt the first weight lift off my shoulders. My mother had a key to this house on a keychain I gave her for Mother's Day. She guarded it like a treasure. In about 20 minutes, that key would be nothing more than scrap metal. While Mike worked, I made the second call. A moving company. I need a pack out, I told the dispatcher. Full service, as soon as possible, tomorrow morning. That's short notice, the woman said. It'll be a premium rate. That's fine, I said. I have a budget surplus this month. That night, I went into the rooms. I started with the master bedroom. My dad's clothes were everywhere. My mom's vanity was covered in expensive creams and perfumes. I took a black trash bag. I didn't throw their things away. That would be illegal destruction of property. I was a paralegal. I knew the law. I had to be careful. I sorted, clothes in boxes, toiletries in bins. I went into Tyler's room. It smelled like stale energy drinks and body spray. His gaming setup was worth easily $3,000. I unplugged it carefully. I wrapped the monitors. I boxed the controllers. I found things as I packed. A receipt for a steak dinner for 3 dated last Friday, when I was eating leftovers alone. A credit card statement in my dad's name, hidden under the mattress, showing thousands of dollars in debt I didn't know about. And then I found it. In my mom's nightstand drawer, a notebook. It was her manifestation journal. She wrote in it every morning. I flipped to a recent page. I am so grateful for this house. I am manifesting that Chloe meets someone and moves out so we can have the space we deserve. She brings down the energy. I deserve this sanctuary. I closed the book. My hands were shaking, not with sadness, but with disbelief. She brings down the energy. The person paying the mortgage. The person paying the lights. I threw the journal into the box with her underwear. The moving crew arrived at 9 a.m. the next day. 3 guys. They were efficient. Everything? The foreman asked, looking at the clutter. Everything that isn't on this list, I said, handing him a clipboard. The furniture in the master, the craft room contents, the gaming setup, the TV in the living room. It all goes. Where to? Storage master, unit 402, I said. I paid for 1 month. It's climate controlled. Watching them strip the house was surreal. The house had been suffocating under their clutter for 5 years. As the furniture left, the house seemed to take a breath. The light hit the floorboards in ways I hadn't seen in years. By 4 p.m., the house echoed. It was just me, my small bed in the den, and my few pieces of furniture. I called a junk removal service for the trash, the broken chairs, the old magazines, the actual garbage they hoarded. Then I called the internet company. I'd like to downgrade my service, I said, basic plan only, and change the Wi-Fi password. The new password? I looked at the empty living room. Not your house anymore? I hired professional cleaners. I told them I wanted a move-out clean. I wanted the baseboards scrubbed. I wanted the carpets shampooed. I wanted the windows washed. I needed to wash the smell of them out of the walls. While the cleaners worked, I sat in my car and called the police non-emergency line. I needed to establish a paper record. I'm the homeowner, I told the officer on the phone. I had guests staying with me who did not have a lease. They have left for a trip. I have removed their property to a secure storage unit. I am concerned they will try to break in when they return. Do they have residency? The officer asked. They have no lease, no utility bills in their name, and they pay zero. Rent, I said. I have bank statements for 5 years proving I pay 100% of the household costs. They are guests who have overstayed. It's a gray area, the officer warned. If they've been there 5 years, they might claim tenant rights. But if you're the owner and you've secured their property, just keep the deed handy. If they cause a disturbance, call us. Thank you, I said. I knew it was risky, but I also knew my parents. They were bullies, but they were cowards. They crumbled under authority. They relied on guilt, not the law. By day 6, the house was pristine. It smelled of lemon and bleach. It was quiet. I moved my things out of the den. I took the master bedroom. It felt huge. I put my modest, full-size bed in the middle of the room where their king-size bed used to be. I went to the store and bought a bottle of wine. I sat on the floor of the empty living room, drank a glass, and wrote the note. I drafted it 4 times. I wanted to be angry. I wanted to scream in all caps. But I remembered the crumpled $20. I remembered budget cuts. I kept it professional. Cold. To Bob, Diane, and Tyler. Since the budget was too tight for 4 tickets, I realized the budget is definitely too tight to support 3 adults who do not pay rent. I have reclaimed my home. Your personal belongings have been moved to Storage Master, Unit 402, at address. I have paid for 30 days of storage. The key to the unit is in this envelope. After 30 days, the contract is in your name. If you do not pay, they will auction your items. You do not have a lease. You do not have permission to enter this property. If you attempt to enter, I will call the police for trespassing. Do not contact me. I am taking some time to fix my energy, Chloe. I taped the note to the front door with heavy-duty duct tape. I taped the key to the storage unit inside the envelope. Then I moved my car across the street to Mrs. Higgins's driveway. She was a nosy neighbor who hated my dad because he always parked in front of her mailbox. When I told her what I was doing, she cackled. "You sit right here, honey," she said. "I'll make popcorn." Their flight was delayed. Of course it was. I sat in my car for 3 hours, watching the sun go down. Around 7:30 p.m., the airport shuttle pulled up. They looked exhausted, but smug. They were tan. Tyler was wearing a goofy hat with long ears. My mom was wearing her sequined mini ears, slightly crooked now. They had bags and bags of souvenirs, Disney bags, duty-free bags. They hauled their luggage up the driveway. My dad was complaining about his back. "Finally," I heard my mom say, "I need a shower and my own bed." My dad reached for the door. He tried the handle, locked. He fished his keys out of his pocket, the keys Mike the locksmith had rendered useless. He slid the key in. It wouldn't turn. He jiggled it. He pulled it out, wiped it on his shirt, and tried again. "What's wrong?" Mom asked, dropping her bags. "It's stuck," Dad grunted. "Damn lock! Let me." Mom shoved him aside. She tried her key. Nothing. Tyler sighed, dramatic and annoyed. "Move, I need to pee." He tried his key. Nothing. That's when they noticed the silence. No lights were on inside, except one lamp I left on in the living room to illuminate the emptiness. My dad stepped back and looked at the window. He cupped his hands against the glass. I saw his body stiffen. He stood there for a long time. "Bob?" Mom asked. "Bob, what is it?" "It's gone," he whispered. "What's gone?" "Everything," Dad shouted, turning around, panic in his eyes. "Everything. We've been robbed. The house is empty." "No," Mom screamed. She ran to the window. "My machine. My fabrics." Tyler ran to the garage keypad. I had reset the code. He punched it in. Nothing. He kicked the door. "What is happening?" he yelled. Then my dad saw the envelope on the door. He ripped it down. He tore it open. I watched through Mrs. Higgins' window as he read the note. I saw his face turn from confusion to red-hot fury. He crumpled the paper and threw it on the ground. Mom snatched it up. She read it. She didn't throw it. She fell to her knees. She actually collapsed on the porch, wailing. She can't do this. She can't do this to me. Then the phone call started. My phone buzzed. Dad. I declined. Mom. Declined. Tyler. I blocked him. My dad started kicking the door. He was screaming my name. Chloe, open this goddamn door. You ungrateful little bitch. Open it. Lights flicked on in the houses next door. Mrs. Higgins stepped out onto her porch. Hey, she yelled. Keep it down. People are trying to sleep. Shut up, you old hag, my dad screamed at her. My daughter has locked us out of our own house. Her house, Mrs. Higgins yelled back. It's her house, Bob, and she's sick of you. That was the moment I decided to step out. I got out of my car. I held my folder, the deed, the receipts, the printout of the text messages where they left me at the airport. I walked across the street. Officer, I yelled, even though the police weren't there yet. I knew Mrs. Higgins had called them. My parents whipped around. When my mom saw me, her face twisted. She stood up and lunged. Chloe, how dare you? How dare you do this to your family? She reached for me, but I stepped back. I was calm, ice cold. Don't touch me, I said, or I'll add assault to the trespassing charges. Trespassing? Dad sputtered. We live here. Not anymore, I said. You're evicted. Read the note. We have nowhere to go, Mom sobbed, switching instantly from rage to victimhood. We just spent all our money on the trip. We have nothing. How can you be so cruel? Cruel? I laughed. It was a sharp, jagged sound. Cruel is telling your daughter she's extra weight at the check-in counter. Cruel is leaving me on the curb with $20 while you go spend thousands on a vacation I paid to get you to. We bought you a keychain, Mom shrieked, pulling a cheap plastic Mickey keychain out of her bag and throwing it at me. It hit my chest and clattered to the driveway. I looked at it. A keychain, I repeated. Well, Mom, that keychain won't open this door, and neither will your old keys. A police cruiser pulled up. 2 officers got out. They looked tired. What's the problem here? The older officer asked. My daughter has gone insane, Dad yelled. She stole our furniture and locked us out. I stepped forward and handed the officer the folder. I am the sole owner of this property, I said calmly. These people were guests. They have no lease. They pay no rent. I have asked them to leave. I packed their belongings and paid for a storage unit for them. Here is the key and the receipt. They are creating a disturbance on my property. The officer looked at the deed. He looked at my ID. He looked at my parents. Is this true, sir? Is her name on the deed? Well, yes, but do you have a lease? We're family. That's not a lease, sir. The officer handed me back the papers. He turned to my parents. Look, this is a civil matter regarding the tenancy, but right now, she is the homeowner and she wants you off the property. You have access to your belongings? In a storage unit, Mom wailed. We can't sleep in a storage unit. That's not a police matter, ma'am, the officer said firmly. You need to leave. If you refuse, you'll be arrested for trespassing. My dad looked at me. His eyes were full of hate. You're dead to us, Chloe. You hear me? Dead. I was dead to you when you left me at the airport, I said. Now I'm just a landlord you can't afford. They left. They had to. They dragged their heavy suitcases back to the shuttle stop because their car had been repossessed while they were in Florida. Another letter I found in the mail stack. They called an Uber. They stayed at a Motel 6 that night. The next day, the barrage of flying monkeys started. My aunt, my cousins, even my grandmother on my dad's side called me. How can you be so heartless? Your mother is sick with grief. They are family. I sent them all the same response. A screenshot of the deed and a screenshot of my bank statement showing 5 years of covering their bills. If you care about them so much, I wrote, feel free to take them in. They are currently looking for a host. Surprisingly, nobody volunteered. It took about 3 months for the dust to settle. I didn't keep the house. It had too many ghosts. I listed it a week after the incident. Because the market was hot, it sold in 4 days for way over the asking price. I took the money, my grandmother's legacy, and I moved. I moved to the city, 2 hours away. I bought a condo with a doorman and a security system. My parents? They burned through their storage unit month. They didn't pay the fee, and their stuff got auctioned off. I heard they are renting a cramped 2-bedroom apartment in the next town over. Tyler had to get a job at a warehouse because they couldn't afford his internet or his car payments anymore. My mom posts on Facebook sometimes. Vague, passive-aggressive quotes about ungrateful children and karma. I only know this because a friend showed me. I have them all blocked. Last week, I took a trip. I went to the airport. I checked my bag. I walked through security. I boarded a plane to Paris. I sat in the window seat. As the plane took off, I looked down at the sprawling suburbs below. Somewhere down there, in a cramped apartment, my family was probably arguing about whose turn it was to pay the electric bill. I ordered a glass of champagne. Celebrating? The flight attendant asked. I smiled. Yeah, budget surplus. I learned the hard way that you can't buy love, but you can certainly pay for your own freedom. And sometimes, the price of admission is a crumpled $20 bill and the courage to change the locks. If you are the Chloe of your family, the one who pays, the one who fixes, the one who is ignored until you are needed, let this be your sign. Check the deed, check your bank account, and check your self-respect. You might find you own a lot more than you think. And remember, keys can be changed,